Welcome to Tell Me More with Monisha Mahtani, the podcast where we explore the story between the question and the transformation. I'm Monisha, a nutritionist with over 2 decades experience, wellness strategist, and deeply curious about the inner lives behind the outer success. In each episode, I speak with individuals who have navigated life's challenges with grace and emerged with wisdom to share. This episode is sponsored by Nutrition Band, a platform with affordable healthy eating meal plans, programs, and recipes. Today's guest is a rising force in the world of competitive fencing. When he was just 17, David Sosnov had taken the silver medal at the Junior World Cup in Italy. He has broken into the senior top 8 in Paris and helped Great Britain secure its first ever Junior World Cup team gold. But beyond the medals and rankings, I'm interested in the man behind the mask, the discipline, the mindset, and the physical rituals that have brought him to where he is at this point, and to find out where he's heading next. Welcome, David, to Tell Me More. I'm absolutely delighted to speak to you today.
Hi, I'm really delighted to be on with you as well. Thank you very much for having me.
It's such a pleasure. And just like myself, our audience is very excited to know about your journey. So I'm going to start with what drew you into fencing in the first place.
So my father grew up in the Soviet Union in present-day Kiev, and he was a fencer in his childhood up until late teenage years. So when I was growing up in the US and I lived in New York, my dad signed me up at a local fencing club to try. And from then, I pretty much loved it nearly immediately.
That's amazing to hear. So how old were you when this started? And can you remember the moment you thought, this is bigger than just a hobby?
Yeah, of course. I was 6 years old, and unfortunately, I don't think my parents ever saw it as a hobby. Like, they wanted me to get into the competitive side and, in a way, reach heights. My dad wanted me to reach heights that he didn't have the opportunity to reach. But I'd say if there was one turning point, it would have been my first competitive medal, which was at like an under-8 competition in London after I'd already moved back.
And that's very young, under 8. So that must have been a great achievement in itself.
Well, I think as any skill, the earlier you start, the better. Just the more hours you get practice and the more competitive environments you put yourself in, the better the output's going to be.
Absolutely. And how did it feel to stand on the podium? Was it like a long-awaited moment, or did it take you completely by surprise?
Well, Udine was my first Junior World Cup medal. So I'd say in a way it was something that I was dreaming about, something that I'd been working towards for a very long time. So it was very rewarding, not just for me, but for the amazing people that I work with, my coach, the people I train with, my family. So I think it felt like I was doing everybody, including myself, very proud.
Great. And Paris for you was also breakthrough, facing world champions at 17. What did that teach you about yourself?
Well, the Paris World Cup was my first time qualifying for the second day in a senior event. So the way they work at seniors only is you have to qualify for the main tableau through a series of fights on the first day. So I'd never done that before, and I didn't expect at all to even reach the last 8 or the quarterfinals. So I think that really taught me a lot about what I need to step up my game for in the future. There's a big difference between fencing seniors and fencing juniors. So I think my fencing matured in a way that has allowed me to keep consistently being in that main tableau to this day.
It's great to hear. So you've sort of evolved almost with
Definitely.
the sport. And do you thrive more in individual competition or as part of a team?
That's a really difficult question because sometimes it's one, sometimes it's the other, because most competitions have both. I prefer individual, and that's why I picked fencing, because I'm in control of everything. It's not like football where I'm relying on teammates. But that being said, if I have a bad day in the individual event, the team is an amazing way to get your mojo back, produce some of my best fencing when I'm enjoying myself amongst my teammates who are so supportive. So I'd say if I had to pick one, it would be individual, but I've fenced really well before in a team event, and that's really helped me enjoy the sport again after a bad result individually.
And, fencing is explosive, it's strategic and highly physical. What does your weekly training look like?
It varies between if I'm competing that weekend or not, but If I'm not competing, it would be roughly 6 to 7 training sessions a week, with 1 or 2 days being morning session for fencing, evening session for fencing. I have usually 4 to 5 individual one-to-one classes with my coach, so we'd be working with each other on very specific, mainly tactical stuff. And simultaneously, I'd be in the gym 3 to 4 times a week doing plyometrics, a lot of weight training and stuff for reactiveness and explosiveness. And all of that is combined with, of course, with nutrition and sports psychology to help me stay sharp and healthy.
And how do you approach rest, recovery, and injury prevention? Because, I mean, I'm sure with you being so active, that's something that you really have to think about quite consciously.
100%. And injuries have been something, especially my ankle, has plagued me for quite a few years. And recently I've started doing a larger amount of plyometrics to strengthen my joints, a little bit of yoga and more stretching to just be more elastic and hopefully stop me from getting injured in the future. Stuff like that. Our team regularly uses, I'm not sure if you're familiar with compression boots. They're really good. So I don't use them too much, but before, during, and after competitions, they're great, as well as saunas, steam rooms, and ice baths whenever they're available.
So you have lots of tools in your toolbox to help you recover.
Definitely.
That's amazing. So as a young athlete, how important is nutrition to your performance?
I think nutrition is really key to any high-level athlete, especially someone who has Olympic aspirations, and a lot of people lack the knowledge that they need, including myself, for a very long time. So stuff like supplements, vitamins, especially when you're traveling long distance so that you don't get a cold, lots of stuff in the air on a plane. I used to get sick all the time. So I'd say if I didn't keep on top of my nutrition, I'd have a really difficult time staying healthy with the active lifestyle that I live.
Have you ever worked with any nutritionists or performance coaches to refine your physical routine?
Specifically over a long period of time, no, but all the athletes on the, I guess, Olympic pathway in Britain have people that work with us, people that make sure that we submit clear nutrition plans, clear training plans, and they give us advice about what sort of foods we need to be eating before and after competitions. And during competitions, we have people that would provide stuff for us, especially if we're struggling or we've reached the later stages.
David, are there any anti-doping protocols or regulations that you, as a fencer, have to follow?
Absolutely. Anti-doping is something that's drilled into us and pretty much every high-performance athlete, not just in fencing. So any medications that we'd be taking have to be checked, ideally on the Global Draw website, where we can input our sport and whatever medication that we're taking, and that will tell us if it's on the banned list, which could potentially come up if we were on a drug test after a competition.
Because that can greatly affect the outcome of the game, can't it?
Yeah, you can have your medal stripped, and potentially your team can be entirely scratched from a season or even just a competition. But you have to really consider the wider effects of doping as an individual, because the last thing you'd want to do is negatively impact the people around you.
Of course. And how does that influence your nutritional choices or supplement use?
Well, apart from checking stuff on the website, we have to also just be very careful when eating everyday things. I'm sure as a nutritionist, you know, like poppy seeds contain traces of opioids. So you just have to be careful, as you never know. And even if you're around family, around friends, and you're being told to eat something, you have to be always alert and ready to, tell them no.
So it's really important for you to uphold a clean, doping-free approach to sport then.
Always, always. And for every fencer, I'm sure they'd say the same thing.
Absolutely. And I'm sure with every sport as well, that the regulations are quite strict. And do you feel that that restricts your diet in any way?
I don't feel like I'm restricted, but I definitely feel like I'm always aware, almost like I'm looking for people that are trying to catch me out, or if I catch myself out by accident. So I just have to be careful, really.
So your life is really quite disciplined, and you really have to be aware of your surroundings, your food, the people that you come into contact with. A lot of self-awareness there.
Definitely. And we always try to keep that at a high level.
What does a typical training day diet look like for you, and what role does food play specifically for you, like in energy and recovery?
So on a regular training day, our breakfast would be filled with some sort of slow release carbohydrate for energy throughout the day, small amount of protein. So for example, we could do eggs and then a bowl of oats. And then during the day, depending or not if my training session's in the morning, I'd have a high protein lunch, some supplements throughout the day, maybe a protein shake if I'm in the gym. And then in the evening, I live at home still, so it's whatever my mom cooks, but she's very conscious of my lifestyle and she cooks really well, so it's always something good.
Great. So how do you stay focused and resilient during sort of pressure-filled competition time?
During competitions, I get nervous quite a lot, especially before a big match. So a way that I calm myself down is by listening to jazz music, and that helps me regain my focus and enjoy myself a little bit more. So if I'm losing focus during a match, obviously you can't put some earphones in. So what a lot of fencers do is we'll tie our shoelaces as a break or pull up our socks. Girls might do their hair, and that gives you a moment to stop, think, and regain your focus for the next point.
So that means it's really quite intensive then.
Definitely. I mean, the referee wouldn't give you longer than 15 seconds. So you really need to make the most out of those, fine
Yeah.
times.
I mean, fencing is called physical chess for a reason, isn't it? And so
Exactly.
how would you train your mental sharpness and emotional control?
Some fencers like to work with a sports psychologist. I haven't done much work with a psychologist in the past, but I think what's really important for me is to simulate competitive environments in training. So that might be something as silly as putting a punishment on the line so that you feel like you're in a high stakes environment, just like in a competition. Or we might run training competitions, or there's a lot of ways you can basically simulate as high pressure of a situation as you can in a familiar setting.
Okay, that's very interesting because you also have, if I'm not mistaken, you're at King's College as well, which is also very, very demanding.
Yeah.
So how do you navigate the two between studying and your sport, your passion?
Well, for me, university is obviously very important, but last year was only my first year, so I wasn't too busy school-wise. So I was able to still fence at the level and at the amount that was required. So this year, that's a really big challenge for me, especially because my degree is geography with environmental science that requires quite a lot of active field work being out rather than in a classroom. So I think one of my plans is to work with the King's College London sports scholarship team, which I'm very fortunate to be on, as they can help communicate with my teachers as well as my coaches to fit in a busy timetable so that both sides of my life can get the best out of me.
It's really amazing. So it's a really full schedule, that means.
Definitely.
And can I just ask you, what do most people misunderstand about the mental demands of your sport?
I think people see fencing at first glance as just two people hitting each other with a metal rod. It's quite primitive sport, but they don't understand, at least at first glance, that, as you said, it can be like physical chess. You have to always stay one step ahead of your opponent. You have to set traps. And I completely understand that when you're looking at something as exciting or something like it looks like in a movie, you don't really see the physical as well as the mental aspects like strategy and tactics. So I think after taking one class of fencing, anyone would understand that it's so much more mentally demanding than you'd expect.
Of course. And how old are you now?
I'm 19.
19. So you still have a really long journey ahead of you in both your education and fencing. Have there been any setbacks or losses that have shaped you more than the wins?
Definitely. So in fencing, the three higher age categories are cadet, which is under 17, junior, under 20, and senior, which is adults. And the first time I did a junior World Cup under 20, still as a rising cadet, I lost very early. And that was a big turning point for me in basically realizing how far off where I want to be I was. And from that point onwards, I worked really hard, or especially hard, with my coach, by myself, and with my teammates to push myself to reach that level. And once I did get to that level, there's, of course, another setback when I injured my ankle many times. So I guess you just have to do your best to stay in shape, do stuff like I'm doing now, some plyometrics, some stretching, lots of ligament health stuff. And really, I know there will be more setbacks, but I think that's just part of it, and you have to accept that and deal with it as they come your way.
And I think that's a really great attitude to have, actually. And you're already ranked among the top junior fencers globally. How do you stay grounded and motivated? Because that's really important as well.
I'd say I still know that I'm very far off the top, or the very top. When I did my first senior world championships, I had a bad day. I did badly at the senior European championships. So despite good results, it's never going to be always gold, 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 gold. So I know that I keep losing, even in training. Sometimes I'll lose to people that maybe I think I should be beating, but that keeps me grounded. That keeps me motivated, because I know that even the people at the top of where I want to be, they experience these little losses as well.
Of course. And what's next on your competition path? The Olympics, world titles, or is there something else?
Well, fingers crossed. I'd like to make the Olympics. I'd like to win the Olympics in the long term. That's my goal. And pretty much everyone that I train with on a daily basis, they'd say that's their goal as well. You have to aim high. But right now, I'm still a junior. I have 1 season left. Last season, I took a silver medal at the World Championships. So this year, my goal is to win a gold medal, individually and with my team.
That's amazing. All the best for that. And
Thank you.
what would you like your legacy to be as an athlete and beyond sport? I mean, when people look back on your career and years from now, what would you hope that they remember about you beyond just, your titles?
I'd hope they remember not just me, but also the people that helped me get to whatever point I would be at. So I wouldn't be able to do anything without my coach, my family, my teammates and friends. I'd like to be remembered as humble, hardworking, and creative, because I try to fence with a lot of creativity, which shows that I'm enjoying myself when I'm competing.
Absolutely. So I'm going to move on to one of my favorite sections now. It's called a quick fire round, where
Yep.
I'd like to just tell me a little bit more. What is your favorite recovery meal?
Steak with rice. Lots of
Oh, that
protein,
sounds
lots of carbs.
okay. Great balanced diet there. And one ritual before every match.
Well, I've mentioned it, but jazz music.
Great. Okay. And hardest loss you've ever faced?
Probably in Paris in the last 8 against the Italian fencer who was the reigning world champion, Tommaso Marini. I lost 15-4.
Okay. And that was a great match. So, of course, I remember everyone was, really sort of cheering for you. And who is your greatest fencing hero?
My coach, Rzemit Wojciechowski, he's been to 10 Olympics as a fencer and coach, so he's an absolute legend of the game and my personal hero.
Brilliant. And my last question, what keeps you going on your hardest days?
Hardworking people around me. If I'm having a tough day and my teammates are training and they're working hard, then I have no excuse not to give 100% just like them.
That's really amazing to hear. So it's a lot of support both ways.
Yeah, definitely.
That's wonderful. David, thank you, not just for being here today and for what you've achieved, but also for how you carry it. Your story is proof that strength and humility can go hand in hand.
Thank you very much for having me, and I really enjoyed the opportunity to share my story with you and all your listeners.
It was such a pleasure. If you're watching and listening and feeling inspired, follow, share, and subscribe. Thank you to our sponsor, Nutrition Band, for supporting today's episode. You can find the link to Nutrition Band below. And remember, transformation isn't always loud. Sometimes it's sharp, focused, and precise, just like fencing.
Sosnov, a left-hander with a nice disengage and in with an attack to the shoulder.